Radio in motion program loading in 3, 2, 1. Program activated.
Attention everyone, the unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake.
Okay, first things first, what is your name?
This is Big Sonny playing the best of the 90s and beyond.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Radio in motion.
Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
All right, ready? Here we go.
Radio in motion.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to Radio in Motion's Country Freedom. And the reason it's Country Freedom tonight, well, because, hey, I admit, along with 90s and rock and roll and 80s music and some modern pop culture sort of hits on the charts here and there. I don't know, music all sounds the same nowadays. But yes, I did grow up around country. And there's some pretty cool country out there. So yeah, every once in a while, country's going to pop up on my show. But first, thanks for joining me for another episode of The Ugly Truth. And the ugly truth is, I think freedom of speech is one of those phrases that just gets knocked around and assumptions are made. And frankly, I think it's something that people end up taking for granted. And it's also something that I'd like to talk about, and I'll get into it. You know, we live in a world where, look, technology is always moving pretty quick. And, I talk about social media a lot, and the fact that even just the early inception of the internet, I feel like it was almost given to the people as a bit of a mistake or a side effect. And in some ways, the same people who gave it to us, which really is the military and the government, of course, you didn't know that? As if it wasn't designed for them way back in the day of a way to communicate. And I feel like we're being punished in some way for using that form as such an amazing peer-to-peer communication tool. But first, I would like to talk about what sort of sparked this. Look, just in general, I feel like freedom of speech is always being challenged, and there's a lot of the wording that gets used these days that I think is problematic. There's misinformation and disinformation and hate speech. Speech is speech. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that there aren't things that people say that hurt others, and I'll get into that too. And I think there are ways we can help make that better. But the fact is, there is only speech. And along with the elites in the government and politicians, I hate to say, some of the most annoying people that tend to use that phrase, and they're always on the wrong side of it because they don't know the weight of it and what they're saying. It's Hollywood celebrities. What can I say? And I think especially the past 10 years or more, 5 years for sure, whether it is about politics or during COVID and chiming in on things that if they're going to have a go at me that I have no idea what I'm talking about, that I'm just a conspiracy theorist, and that it used to be researching and doing your own research and being knowledgeable about facts was a good thing, but now you're just a conspiracy nut if you're on the wrong side of especially what Hollywood thinks. So what sparked this was Whoopi Goldberg from The View. This is nothing again against Whoopi Goldberg. I grew up as an 80s, 90s kid watching her, and I'm separating the actress from the person, Of course, I can still watch her movies. I'm sure in her heart, of course, she only has good intent, as everyone on The View does. My only problem with The View, and yes, by the way, I think that show is being canceled. I'm not smirking to be rude or a hypocrite when I'm talking about freedom of speech and I'm trying to quash The View. It's that The View never really had both sides of the story. That was the problem, and there was a time when that was okay, but I think there is a shift out there, and it's changing, and The View, when it really only is one view, their view, and their side of the view, I don't think anyone wants to see that anymore. So it was on a recent episode, Whoopi Goldberg, was challenging sort of freedom of speech, that people just always use that, freedom of speech, I can say what I want. And then she said this, and I'm not going to show the clip, probably get demonetized if I'm on YouTube. But basically she said, some speech is not okay free speech. And that's problematic. I guess she solved the debate over what is free speech. Is free speech absolute? I think it is. And then she went on to say, everybody has to agree on that there's certain kind of speech that's not okay. And look, that's a pivotal thing, and that's the trick, isn't it? Everybody has to agree, and that's the problem. Who agrees? Who decides? Who decides what's acceptable speech and what's not? When speech is right or wrong. Is it wrong when it offends you? And again, this is the thing. I'm always happy to have a debate. Don't listen to me. Listen to me, and then go find your own facts. Make your own opinion. Make your own decision. That is the right thing. And if anyone's arguing with you and they don't tell you that afterwards, then, I think they're not on the right side of open debate and free speech, which is really about having a conversation, especially with people who may not agree with you, but you can't stop them from believing what they believe, especially if there are facts that are indisputable. People will still argue over those. So the thing with Whoopi Goldberg is saying that everyone has to agree on what kind of free speech is right or wrong. And I'll say the problem with that is if this is just about feelings, then we're all lost. Because if you're going to get into a debate about anything, if you're going to read something, hear something, if it's going to affect you in such a way that you want to stop that person from having their say, then you miss the whole point. Because one day, someone, and this is the thing, it just boggles people's mind when someone else who, and this isn't about right or wrong, but sometimes it might be, you might be only kind of right about something, and someone else actually comes along and tries to give you the facts, and because of the fact that they don't like what you said, now they want to stop you. So one day, my point is someone won't like what Whoopi Goldberg is saying, and they'll make sure to stop her on social media and, take her show down, whatever it is, and stop her from speaking her mind. And that's the problem. So today I want to, dive into the topic that feels more urgent than ever. And free speech, not the buzzword version, but the real messy, uncomfortable kind. The uncomfortable kind that is someone raising a flag and someone burning that same flag next to you. That is what it is. All you can do is both of you have a conversation and come to a middle ground. And I know right off the bat what you're going to say. When they're talking about hate speech, they're talking about someone saying horrible things to someone else. That is where I will talk about, there is a way to have decorum. There is a way to identify if someone is just there to cause trouble. And now I'm already getting into a slippery slope here, but I think if anyone on any social media platform is speaking their mind, and yes, it may be something deplorable, you have to deal with that. And all I can suggest to you, if you want to change their mind or you want to try to make what you feel is right, you have to be louder. You have to be more convincing. You have to find it in yourself. You can't stop them, but maybe you can lessen that hurtful voice. Again, if this is all we're talking about, is that they just want to make sure there's no hate speech, then you automatically get into trouble when you talk about that. And the thing with free speech, look, I live in Australia, but I'm from America. I'm a bit in both worlds. I love Australia. I live here. I've been here for half my life, but I still recognize that you have to understand in the U.S.A., it's a little bit different than every other country. And again, you can debate me, but, look it up yourself. Whether it's the UK or Australia, every country, you may just assume that you can say what you want. And yes, there's plenty of rallies here in Australia and people picketing and having their voice. But you don't realize, especially in Australia and the UK right now, behind the scenes, your politicians and your government are making sure to try to find ways based on these phrases of hate speech or trying to quash certain points of view because they have decided it's wrong. And the fact is you will lose your freedom of speech. And I feel like the U.S. might be the last bastion of keeping that, because here's the one thing. And again, you'd be like, oh, typical American. But I'm just being honest. in America, it's not just a cultural assumption. It's a constitutional right. And again, I'm sure you could show me something, a document from the UK or Australia in some sort of mandate. It's not the same. I don't care. It's not in your Constitution. The First Amendment in the U.S. Constitution is freedom of speech across all. And again, unlike other countries, which may claim free speech, they lack the explicit protected legal foundation. Even controversial or offensive speech is protected, and you have to live with that so that you can still have your say. Because once they go after the hate speech, someone may decide one day your hate speech. You may be against Ukraine. You may be for Hamas or against Israel. Oh my God, yes, I've jumped right into that one. So depending on who's in charge will decide whether you're right or wrong. And they'll allow one side and not the other. And that's happening as we speak. And yes, I'll be honest, especially when it comes to Israel and Gaza right now. A side has been chosen and the other side has been assumed misinformation or hate speech. And that's not how you're going to get there, folks. That's not how you're going to do it. I know this protection, it creates tension, but it's also a strength that forces ideas into the open. You have to make sure to convince the other person through a positive way, through an open discourse and discussion. You can't throw them in jail. You can't put tape over their mouth. And now that's a physical way. Well, the Newtown Square, you can't put tape over their mouth. You can't arrest them. But what you can do, and what the government can do, or anyone in charge, anyone with the money, anyone with the platforms, they can put tape over your mouth by stopping your posts on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok. That's the Newtown Square, and that's where they'll get you. And that's what these laws, especially in Australia, I know, I'm not going to get into it. There's laws about YouTube and age restrictions with young kids. It starts off sounding good and protective, but it's a slippery slope until it comes to you as an adult who's trying to decide for him or herself. You have earned that right to decide for yourself. But if someone says, no, you can't, you're no longer in a free country. And you no longer have freedom of thought. So here's the danger of labeling speech as hate or misinformation. The terms hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, these are increasingly being used as tools to suppress dissent or uncomfortable truths. Like I say, if you're on one side of Ukraine or Russia or Israel or Hamas, whatever it is, if you're on the wrong side of it, you're hate speech. And that can come down to anything. And that's the problem. What can I say, folks? Life is hard. Buy a hard hat. I know, I'm immediately canceled. I'm a heterosexual white male. I'm the devil. But don't ever assume until you've walked a mile in someone else's shoes, anybody, man, woman, or child, that you don't know what they've gone through in their life. Any particular situation. It could be so many things. Health things, life, accidents, tragedy, death. Whatever it is, you don't know. And that has nothing to do with gender, race, or creed. So you need to be more open to not being so delicate these days. So the problem with, hate speech, the problem isn't that hate speech is good. It's that who defines it? Who says Whoopi Goldberg is saying the right thing or the wrong thing? Who says you are saying the right thing or the wrong thing on your social media? Once you open the door to censoring bad speech, you invite government or the tech gatekeepers to decide what's acceptable. And you may be on the right side of it now, but at some point, trust me, you'll be on the wrong side of it, and you won't even know what happened. Your head will spin around. What happened? I thought I was saying the right thing. I thought I was good. No. The political winds of change, they can change, and you might be on the wrong side of it. And then you'll find the thing you were trying to get out, whatever the message is. You had free reign before, but someone flipped the switch. This isn't about left or right. This isn't about Republican or Democrat or liberal. This is not about government or parties. This is about people. This is about you having discussions. This is about you remembering that you're in charge. I know it doesn't feel like it these days. You're in charge. And again, before I get into the specifics of how we can be a bit better, just be respectful of each other. If you were to start there, you can have any conversation you want. And it may stress or trigger the other person, but it used to be in the old days you could have a disagreement and still walk away friends. Now you get canceled. And I know that. I've had that happen. I've seen it happen to others. And COVID was a huge eye-opener with that. Rather than leaving politics aside, it entered our life in such a way that families were split apart. Friends haven't spoken for years. And it's ridiculous. I think it's childish. I thought we were more mature than that. I really did. I thought we were the most enlightened time ever. And we're so immature when it comes to that. So free speech requires tolerance for opposing views. If you don't have that, you're just a troublemaker. You're just out there on the fringe for yourself. You're selfish. You want to make noise. You want to look cool. You want to be an activist. I don't get off on activists. They're so boring. They're not changing anything. And I don't mean someone out there who has a voice and who's speaking their mind. That's different. Someone who just does ridiculous pranks to show off. You're a child. You're a child. You know, a truly free society must allow speech for both the person who raises the flag and the one who burns it. I mentioned that before, but it's as simple as that. And you have to find a way, both of you, to explain why and to try to understand it. And that's the best you can hope for. And even if you come out of the other end, and I do believe that everyone, even if they're so divisive, you learn something. Everyone learns something. And if you're not learning something, you need to find a way to do it. But if you come out the other end and you haven't come to an agreement, which is mostly the case, you can still treat each other with respect and as a human and completely disagree with them and not even like them. But how you act, how you treat them, do unto others as you've had done unto you, pretty simple saying, is how you can still have a fierce debate and come out the other end with neither side feeling so triggered and stressed. But again, I think we need to grow a spine and get there. Civil discourse should be, especially for young people, it should be modeled, especially to younger generations. Disagreement isn't hatred. Debate isn't violence. If you see a violent crowd, if someone is only about being despicable and rude and horrible and saying mean things or doing mean things or physical violence, that's something else altogether. That person should be arrested. That person should have a visit to say, why is it your only aim here seems to be antagonizing? But if you keep it to using your big boy words, big girl words, and just words, I'm sorry, yeah, words can hurt. I get it. Words can hurt. But you can't stop the words, because then who chooses? It's Orwellian 1984. It's the Ministry of Truth. This has already been happening in the UK and the U.S. a little bit, but thank God we have the First Amendment, and in Australia for sure. You know, the Ministry of Truth. Well, welcome to 1984 for real. But, you know, we need to bring back respectful, meaningful dialogue, not cancellation or silencing. And I'm sorry, it is as simple as that. And that's how I fix Whoopi Goldberg's problem. Certain type of speech isn't okay. That's because, and they're part of it. The minute they have someone, and they haven't had that for ages, if they ever have someone with an opposing view, whether it's left or right, they are a bit left, I'm just being honest. If someone comes on the show and just tries to say, well, actually, I have some facts here I want to talk about, they shut them down. They put their hand up, go to a break, you watch the shows. That's why they're being canceled. The View only has one view. And that already is disrespectful. It is silencing. And Whoopi Goldberg thinks she's the champion, but she doesn't get it. She is a silencer because they're saying things that have an emotional response. I'm not Whoopi Goldberg. I can't imagine what she's gone through. I'm not a black woman. I have no idea what her life is like. I don't assume it. But with that being said, and I'm sorry, whether you think I'm just saying that only the people who've had such downtrodden hardships are the ones that have to find a way to be stronger. If that's how it has to be, then that's how it has to be. I don't know what to tell you. She needs to find a way to be stronger and allow an open discourse rather than shut it down. That's why their show's shut down. Simple as that. And I was talking about social media before. Something as simple as the printing press in 1776, it held significant power as a tool for disseminating information and shaping public opinion. In a time during the American Revolution, that was huge. To get your voice out, that was the internet. Paper, yes, the newspaper. Before, God knows, mainstream media just became filled with just a bunch of, talking hair pieces and shills. And I'm sorry, they are. They are not. They're not representing journalism. They are not journalists. The guy or woman who's sitting in the studio talking to you, they're not journalists. They have been given a piece of paper to read. And if anything goes against what might be on the next ad coming up, say like, I don't know, Pfizer or something, oh my God, they could never talk against the one who's feeding them the cash. So yeah, they're not journalists. But there was a time when something as simple as the printing press and newspaper, helped to spread revolutionary ideas, contributing to a sense of shared identity amongst, America, which was spawned from that, from saying, we don't want to be ruled from another country. Yeah, that's the American in me coming out. Again, I love Australia and all, but we did decide we didn't feel like being ruled by a monarchy from a land far, far away. But yeah, so that's how the simple idea of communication and speech was being revolutionized. Now, that power is being clamped down through algorithms, content moderation, shadow bans, and government pressure on tech companies like YouTube. And YouTube, they're not the best. They usually fold, but even they are trying to hold their ground. They're trying to hold their ground with the Australian age limit law, which again, I know it sounds wonderful, but it's a slippery slope to ending your rights of free speech. And even YouTube, which is partly a shill, they're trying to hold their ground. But yeah, platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and X, they're becoming the modern day public squares. And, yet they're often not held to the same speech protections. The digital town square, it has to be protected just like anything else. But yeah, we need a huge cultural shift from control to conversation. I'm tired of control. Yeah. I lived in Melbourne, Australia through COVID. I want to move away from control, and I want to have more open conversation. Politicians and elites, they increasingly want a control of the narrative, not public debate. What politician, rare, really wants public debate? They want to go and put on a good show. They want a good show so they get elected and they get paid. And so when they retire, they still keep getting paid. It's not a good look. And yeah, Hollywood's part of that. Whoopi Goldberg, that mentality is part of that, calling for limits on speech. It's reflecting a larger, cultural trend, equating to personal offense with harm, and then using that to justify censorship. Again, you got to grow a thicker skin. We need to raise citizens, not followers. Citizens, you're part of the conversation. It's your home, it's your children, it's your neighborhood. You have a voice. Teach the next generation to disagree respectfully, to think critically. Oh my God, that's gone out the window. Critical thinking is tantamount to conspiracy. Well, I'm sorry, folks, until I lose my mind, I'm going to keep thinking critically and grow thicker skin in difficult conversations. Walk away. If you're not ready to deal with that, then walk away. It doesn't mean you've backed down. It doesn't mean you're a coward. You can fight another day. Find a way to fight with your words and try to convince that person to get on that wave, the better one. And again, hopefully you are. If you're someone who's trying to raise terrible things, you're like, what about those people, Sonny? You haven't talked about all the terrible, terrible people. Again, I don't know what to tell you. As much as the world is filled with people full of inherent goodness and values, there are bad people. I can't stop that. All I can tell you is you have to be better. You have to rise above it. You can't just say, silence them all, silence them all. Do you hear what you sound like? It's not a good sound. So again, just to end this, it's not about left versus right. It's about people versus control. Free speech is essential, not just to liberty, but to human connection and mutual growth. And a little bit what I said about the internet in its early days, it was, sort of a military technology, and like anything, sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, whether it's war times and amazing medical technologies come out of wartime. Of course, it spills over to the people. You can't help that. So again, I don't think the internet was ever really intended for us, but what can I say? In its initial concept, what a great tool. I've always thought, what a beautiful thing to communicate across the world. The ultimate peer-to-peer communication. We can chat to each other, and I can talk to someone in Russia and Australia and the U.S.A. and the Middle East, everywhere, and I can find out from that person, not their politician, not the government, not their president, not their king, to them. And I can say, what's happening there? What's happening with you? How are you feeling? That's power. And that's what they're afraid of. And when I say they, I know exactly who I'm talking about. I am talking about the oligarchy. There's money behind the money. If you think of a billionaire, Elon Musk, there's people bigger than Elon Musk you don't even know. I'm not a crazy conspiracy theorist. And you can look a lot of these people up. Of course they're there. And that trickles down to the politicians they have in their pocket. And it's not always just about money. Hollywood runs the same way. Usually they've got dirt on someone. What can I say? Everyone makes mistakes. Don't make a mistake in Hollywood or government, because they'll keep track of that. They'll make sure. Yep. Well, hey, you can start dissent, but we're gonna pop this out in the news and see how you like that. So again, it's not for them. Social media is for all of you, and they're worried about that. They are. They can't stand that the tool that they wanted to use for themselves became the communication tool that brought people together like no other time in the universe. And that is a beautiful thing, but it's turned a bit sour, and it doesn't work if it's not free and open and you're able to speak your mind. So, yeah, what can I say? Free speech isn't about protecting speech we like. It's about protecting the kind we don't. Sorry. Because once we start deciding what speech is acceptable, we give someone, a government, a company, a celebrity, an algorithm, the power to silence anyone, including you. It can silence anyone, including you. Just wait. You'll know it when you see it. It's not about hate. It's about honesty. Sometimes the truth hurts. It's about disagreement. It's about the freedom to think and speak without fear. Imagine that. I'm sure you feel that in your heart, but do you feel you can do that on social media without getting canceled? I bet not. We can't grow as a people if we're not allowed to talk, debate, and even offend once in a while. I'm sorry. If you haven't offended someone at least once a day, you're not living. That's why comedy, there's no comedy movies anymore, barely. I'm going to go see The Naked Gun. It won't be as good as the first, but my God, I'll be happy just to see a comedy that probably asks, can I say this? Can I joke about this? Am I going to get canceled? Am I in trouble? I tell you, if you can't laugh at yourself and the human condition, then you should really just stay home. But yeah, so the next time you hear something you don't like, don't shut it down. Challenge it. Debate it. Or just walk away. Because freedom of speech isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. And right now, we all need to show up for it. So anyway, That's my take. Thanks for listening. If this resonated with you, share the episode, leave a comment. I'll put this up on YouTube and Rumble and Spotify. And most importantly, keep the conversation going. All right. More great music up next on Radio Motion's Country Freedom episode tonight, right after a word from our awesome sponsors.